I'm Paulina, compulsive overeater, gratefully recovering one day at a time. I have been in and out of OA for 37 years. Kind of like to start with the last 17 years. I have been back. I moved to Massachusetts 17 years ago, did not go to a single meeting for a year. Maybe it's 18 years ago. Anyway, and then all of my compulsive eating behaviors came back. I had gained like 40 pounds. And then I wanted, okay, I'm going to go back to OA. That's what works. But first, I'm going to lose weight. Couldn't lose weight. Then it was like, okay, I'm going to go to therapy. Guess what? All the therapists had 1 or 3 month waiting lists. And I'm like, I really, really was suffering. I had really gone back to compulsive eating, and I came back to OA and have been, doing 3 meetings a week or more. Have kept a sponsor, usually have sponsees, and do all the tools to the best of my ability. But I do think in my history, I'll tell more of it later, but it's, I would give up some of the tools. It was like, oh, I don't need 3 meetings a week, or, I don't need to, call my sponsor every day. That's a big one for me. I do call my sponsor 6 days a week. But I also, if I can't reach my sponsor, the other thing I do, I write down my food and communicate it to someone. And that gives me such peace of mind, because if I don't, write down my food and communicate it to someone, I have such a bad history with food. I could get back to hemming and hawing and thising and thatting and my first sponsor said to me, okay, that's what you're having today? Okay, are you committed? Yes, I'm committed. That's all you're having. That's it. That's today. That will be an abstinent day today. Yes, I'm committed. Okay, you can, do that. And you can do anything for one day that you would think would kill you if you had to do it for a lifetime. You can do this, ask God, get on your knees, call me tomorrow. And I did. And it was like, wow, this one day at a time works. So that's when, confirmation that, yes, I was powerless over food and I needed help. Oh my goodness. So I'll get into a little more of the, history, how I got to that first sponsor. I had a history of dieting and eating and exercising and bulimia. So I had been a compulsive overeater, I would say definitely from age 18 to 38. And I had lost 50 pounds probably 5 times. I knew all the diets. Had done the Atkins diet, no sugar, no flour, many times. It worked. But it got to where I could not face it. It's like it was torture, and I could not do it again. There was another one. Oh, I can't remember what they called it. It was it's called the rotation diet. So you had, one day at 600 pounds, 600 calories, and then 3 days at 900 calories, and then 2 days at 1,000 calories. And then one day you got to have, like 2,000 calories. And then you go back to the 600. And that one worked again, but go back to that 600 calories? No. Oh my goodness. So the torture I went through and the delusions, I think, I do no sugar, no flour, and I know that works, but I know I needed more than a diet. But the idea when I would finish those diets was, okay, now I will not gain weight for 3 months. And mostly, always, it began the next day or within a month, but one time I got to the 3 months and it came back. And I was like, oh my goodness, this, it just keeps coming back. And I had seen those books in the 80s, Diets Don't Work. And I believed in research, and they had a lot of details that, 95% of the people who lost weight gained back more than what they'd lost in 5 years. And then if you went to 6 years or 10 years, it became 99%. So it's like, wow, this is a difficult life problem. So how did I find OA? I was working in a school district, and there was a teacher who was telling everyone about OA. And he, would tell you where the meetings were and, what they were like. And it's like, oh, that sounds great for you. But then the other clincher, he mentioned it was 12 steps. Okay, so at my work, they did a model of, there was a program in the schools to help kids, children of alcoholics, and have groups. And so they had Ala team come in and did a model group. And they did a meditation, and then they did sharing on what the serenity prayer means to them today in actual things that were happening or going through their head today. And I don't know what it was, like 8 teenagers shared deeply and honestly and openly. I was blown away. I said, this is wonderful. This would be good for everybody. I didn't know that the 12 steps had this. So next time he mentioned the 12 steps in OA, I was like, well, maybe we should go see, right? So I went to a meeting. And I think the first meeting I heard probably the doctor's opinion. I heard that it was physical, mental, and spiritual, that, I had an allergy and a, reaction to some substance, that it was an abnormal reaction. It was not my fault. The allergy, the mental obsession, and then the, needing help outside of myself. And what I heard was, it's not your fault. It's not a moral problem. There is a solution, and you're not alone. And all of that together, I was in. So I took some time, got a sponsor, and I think another thing impressed me was that I put my hand in yours, and together we can do what we could never do alone. No longer is there a sense of hopelessness. No longer must we each rely on our own unsteady willpower. It was like, oh, this is a lovely group. So that got me started and going. And my first sponsor, okay, I took some time, knew I liked her, wanted what she had, liked her approach. And she gave me a food plan that had no sugar, no flour, 3 meals, weighed and measured, nothing in between. And I had done so many diets. And I said to her, well, I have low blood sugar, so I have to eat more often, and I need more fruit. And she was like, well, if you go to your doctor and go to a dietitian and bring a food plan back to me and I can understand it, I could be your sponsor. And I was like, well, I don't want to wait. I'll try your food plan. I tried her food plan, and it worked. It was amazing. I had back problems, gallbladder problems, ingrown toenails that got infected. I mean, all, and I was 38 years old. I was, oh gosh, I was trying to jog, and that hurt my back and my knee. You can't go jogging when you weigh 190 pounds. At least I couldn't. Yeah. So I started, and it was amazing how my body got used to the food. Oh, she told me you eat every 4 to 6 hours. So you plan your day so that you won't have to go over 6 hours, and you take food with you. And I still do that. So that, to me, it's worth it. If the food goes bad, I have to throw it away. That's fine. It was a guarantee of my abstinence. I take food with me. So I followed her food plan. And as I got into the program, so we did the first 3 steps in 30 days. And so we did, I'm powerless over food. My life has become unmanageable. came to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, made a decision to turn my life and my will over to God as I understand God. And then I had to do the 4th step. That was like too much. But I kept going to meetings, kept making little stabs at the 4th step. There were no AWOLs at that time. But I kept having slips or breaks in abstinence. I can't do this. I need some plan. And one of the things I found is it's like a psychologist trust and follow it. It's like you don't go jumping from here to there to there to there. You stick with one program until it helps. So I stuck with it. So that was a surrender. But I have found since then, people that surrender to their dietitian is a surrender. So long as it's not me, that I can't change, and that calling my sponsor if I change my food, that's so important. Well, calling when I change, calling. It's like, they're going to tell me, let go and let God. And I didn't call. And then within 8 to 24 hours, I'd had a break. So this idea of calling, admitting my powerlessness, I still didn't want to admit my powerlessness. So surrender. But we said successes, struggles, and setbacks. So yes, I've been in and out of OA for a long time. And they say, don't let the good things from program take you away from program. So there were, I don't know, I've at different times listed 3 or 4 good things and 3 or 4 bad things that took me away from program. And, it's like, I got divorced. And I held on, I white knuckled it for a while. But I really hadn't gotten deeply into the steps. And that's another form of surrender of saying, okay, I'm powerless over life. And, the answer is in the steps and the fellowship. So that was another surrender. So my divorce, then I lost a bunch of weight, found a wonderful boyfriend. Life was wonderful. That took me away from program. My mom got Alzheimer's. I took care of her and she died. I lost my abstinence. I left program because I was so depressed. But I loved program enough to come back. I added some other programs, other 12-step programs that helped. Then, I got to retire early with an incentive, and I got to move to Boston. But like I said, I didn't go to program for a year. So it's like, what a gift to be able to retire and move to where my family was. And, then I lost my abstinence. So when I got here, I had retired, but when I got my abstinence, I went and found another job that I loved for 8 years. So the things that abstinence brings me are wonderful. The most recent one I want to bring up is that, there's others, crises of faith and family problems and emotional, mental health problems of my family and myself. But the most recent was the COVID and the quarantine. I gained 20 pounds. I did not have sugar or flour. But I decided olive oil was healthy and would keep me from getting COVID. I decided that having eggs every day was healthy and would keep me from getting COVID. It's like, the insanity. So the most recent was 9-10 months ago. I recommitted with a new sponsor and to weigh and measure everything every day, 24/7, 365. And I think what also made a big difference, the live meetings, that I went back to live meetings, and now I am so dedicated to those live meetings because it's like, I found my lifeline again. I'm back. It's wonderful. But other things about program that, wow. My bottom was right before I came in, and I mentioned that I'd been on all those diets, but I think I had gotten up to 210 pounds. And my daughter was about 13, and my marriage was not good. It wasn't horrible at that point, but it was not good. I felt totally alone. And my daughter was drinking in the park. I found out from the neighbors. Very grateful that I had neighbors that knew her, knew me. And I was like, wow, life really was unmanageable. And, when I came to program and did the steps, I also found out that I'm learning, I am growing. And, I'm powerless over my defects, but step 7, I'm working on that again. Surrender and letting go of my control over it, and finding new ways, deepening my spiritual life and my groups and my discussions. So I have a new big book sponsor who is very, very loving. We're doing a 4th step, and the wonderful thing she's been sharing, and I write, okay, I had a hard time with the 4th step. At the end of the resentments, we would write, where was I selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and afraid? And the fear part, I would write, oh, okay, if I had trusted and relied on God, I would have, felt that I was not alone. Something kind of canned. I also found, I look back where I was writing 2017, had some horrible family problems going on. And I wrote, my daughter-in-law is a precious child of God. Well, she is, but she's also dangerous. And I don't think I believed it then. I was hoping the act as if was going to carry over, but something was stuck when I was doing my resentments. So I got to, the end of them this time, and I'm doing that fear part. And my sponsor and I came up with a couple sentences I write that really work for me. What I write is, if we had trusted and relied on beloved, we would have known that we were beloved exactly as we are. And that's just opened my eyes. It's like, wow. I always look back on those turnarounds and like, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And now it's like, wow, just that change in how I see it, in how we see it. So I feel like I'm growing, which is back to the surrender and, being powerless over food and, my life and people, places, and things. So there is so much in this program. Nobody can explain it. I had to do it for years, and gradually it began to sink in. It's amazing. And yeah, trust is something I have learned in this program. So thank you. Thank you very much.